Hello, I'm Warren Sullivan, and I'm going to talk to you about sustainable transport. I recently spent a couple of years in the UK. Okay, I would like to compare and contrast some points from the UK and the US and approach some key points.
About 3 years ago, my dad, who works for the Air Force, got a job to work into the UK. While living in the UK, my mum took the advantage of going to Exeter to work on a PhD, which is something that she's wanted to do almost her whole life.
Mass transit is more popular in the UK, where trains and buses are readily available.
My mum didn't like to drive in the UK. She got used to riding trains, which were a lot more helpful to her than if she was actually driving to Exeter every time.
I really enjoyed riding on the train. I would take the train from Warminster and transfer in Westbury and be in Exeter in about 2 hours. To take my car would have been in about an hour and 45 minutes, not counting parking time. Plus, I didn't have to pay for parking. I was also able to work on the train, which I would not have been able to do if I'd been driving. It wasn't necessarily cheaper because the fares can be quite expensive if you wait to the last minute to buy the tickets, but as far as convenience goes, it was much better for me.
My sister would use public transit here in the US when she was going to UVU.
It would take her an hour to ride the bus from here to BYU, and it's a 15-minute drive.
By the time that you get to the actual bus stop, she could have been there if she had her own car. In Utah, there are such things as public transportation as like buses or trains. We need to have a little bit more user-friendly placements. Living in England, everything was a lot closer together. Every day I would walk for about 15 minutes to and from school. I would walk to my orthodontist appointments. And I could do the shopping, taking only 5 minutes to walk from the corner shop and back.
You walk down the high street, which is like a mile stretch of road, and you see the opticians, you see the beauty shop, you see the pharmacy, the library, the grocery store, the hardware store. Really, literally anything you need, you can find it within like a mile to 2 mile stretch of road, and you can walk to most of it. And this is not a large town. This is Warminster. It's really a pretty small little place. In fact, sometimes it's even harder to get into a place with a car. You have to pay for parking. I remember one time we went to a charity shop, like a Goodwill, to buy this piece of furniture, and it took us forever to find a place where we could park the car close enough so that we could go pick it up. It was a lot easier to get there by walking than it was by a car.
But unfortunately in the US, everything is a lot farther away, and it's a lot more convenient to be driving everywhere. I don't usually walk to school at this school, even though it's only a 20-minute walk. In my next school, I'll have to take the bus from where I live, and it's about a 20-minute drive to the doctor, and it would take about half an hour to walk to the mall.
What is biodiesel? Biodiesel is diesel made from oil that comes from plants or animals instead of oil that comes from the ground. Oil from living things is generally in the form of molecules called triglycerides. Triglycerides are made from a glycerol backbone with 3 fatty acid molecules attached. The fatty acids contain a long hydrocarbon chain, similar to the hydrocarbons in petroleum. Vegetable oil used in cooking fried foods, like French fries, is a good example of this type of oil. Spent vegetable oil, or chip fat as it is called in the UK, is often converted to biodiesel. Triglycerides are too thick and freeze too easily to make good fuel. If the molecule can be broken apart, however, the fatty acid part makes excellent fuel. The chip fat can be broken apart by a chemical reaction called transesterification. Alcohol, using methanol, also known as wood oil, is added with a little base like sodium hydroxide. The triglyceride breaks apart, leaving glycerol, and the long molecules, which are now converted to fatty acid methyl esters, or FAME for short. The glycerol is a byproduct that can be used in making soap, makeup, toothpaste, food, and many other products. The FAME has properties similar to petroleum diesel and can be burned in most diesel engines without modification. Often the biodiesel is mixed with petroleum diesel for a fuel with ideal properties. The biodiesel part has good lubrication and solvent properties to keep the engine clean and make it last longer, while the petroleum diesel part helps keep the freezing point low for driving in cold weather. Usually, 20% biodiesel is mixed with 80% petroleum diesel to make fuel called B20.
So the reason why diesel is a lot better than petrol is because diesel it's more fuel efficient. You can drive for miles without having to go back to a gas station, and there's a lot less pollution as well. Not to mention that biodiesel is a renewable source, so we can, theoretically speaking, we can have an infinite amount of biodiesel. Because we have so many petrol cars, switching from petrol to diesel could take years to do, because people would have to get used to using diesel. They'd have to learn about diesel. Why is it better? Why are we using this? So this is rapeseed. Rapeseed is a plant. When they take the plant, they can take the oil from it, and it makes really good oil for biodiesel. As you can see, it's absolutely everywhere. They have land devoted just to rapeseed so they can make biodiesel for their diesel cars. They have diesel at gas stations, so if we have diesel cars, then diesel will be more popularized. In the UK, they solve a lot of the traffic problems with roundabouts, things that are continuous. Someone that drives into a roundabout doesn't have to stop. In fact, they're encouraged not to stop, so they can keep on going around the circle. In the US, we're a lot accustomed to intersections and stoplights and with bigger roads, and so we're used to only turning one way, and if we don't have that right, or not in the right lane, we are kind of stuck. Stoplights are also a bad thing, mainly because you're sitting there for about 5 minutes waiting for your turn to go where you need to go. So if you can turn that time sitting around into time driving, like using a roundabout because you don't stop in a roundabout, then you'd be using your fuel a lot more effectively. We need to educate our car makers into how to make a really good diesel engine. One thing you can do as an individual is you can encourage people to walk. You can and if you can get enough people to be encouraged to use bicycles and get a group, you can sign petitions and encourage people to make bike lanes, so that when you're using a bicycle it will be a lot safer, a lot user-friendly. You can set up carpools with your friends. Although the whole idea of using diesel engines and really good fuel-efficient planning ideas for traffic or mass transit, things that we could be using in the US, it's not going to be popularized overnight. People need to grasp the idea of having better cars and better cities, and the only real way to do that is if individuals get into this.